It's fixed. It's easy to get to. All right, say something.
1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2.
All right, say something.
1 2 1 2.
The why?
My voice is clear. Ready to roll?
You ready to roll? Oh, you gonna have to read because I don't have my phone. Oh, where's the Bible? Give me the Bible.
I need to think about it too. That's how we can see all the levels. That's a bad habit. Because we both got that big level. It works for me. Let's clap it up, clap it up. All right. Let's rewind, let's start it again. You know, tonight is Monday night, which is history class. We're going to dig into our history. You understand? We're going to show how, you understand, America is totally against the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. You understand? A lot of us think that this is the home, the land of the free and the home of the brave, but there's nothing free about living in America. Understand this. America has always been against the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. You understand? The 12 tribes of Israel. It is customary for the heathens to be against us. You understand? To be against us means that they place us in a position where they can profit off of everything that we do. We understand that most of the main inventions in America was created by somebody in one of the 12 tribes of Israel. You understand? Right. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. When we speak of the 12 tribes, you understand? We are the descendants of Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And every other nation who is not a descendant of that is a heathen. And every nation depends upon us to make their bones in America. You understand? So, but what we're going to dig into tonight is we're going to talk about how the black farmers have been discriminated against. And with that, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohana. We've been bringing this truth since 1969, and that truth is that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives are the true Jews of the Bible, and the oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. And with that, let's dig into one of these articles that I have. You understand? America is slowly destroying our black farmers. Black farmers used to be a great commodity in America. Remember, after the Reconstruction, you understand, black farmers were the commodity because blacks, slaves, the Hispanics and natives, we did all the cultivating. We did all of the tilling of the soil in America. We did all of the labor in America, which after the Reconstruction, we became the artisans of America, meaning we were the skilled workers. You understand? Plumbers, electricians, masonry, we were the skilled laborers. Carpentry, we did all of that. You understand? We built America from the blood, sweat, and tears of our people. You understand? And let's get into this article. This first article is Make Farmers Black Again. You understand? That's the little twist they got from the MAGA, Make America Great Again. Make Farmers Black Again. African Americans fight discrimination to own farmland. You know what I mean? And basically, after the Reconstruction, especially after 1955 and the civil rights movement, that's when they began to really take all the farmland by any means. You understand? That's when blacks began to lose all of their farmland. Blacks began to lose the farmland because what was happening was the big industries and corporations in America that started buying those foods from these farmers began to pay low dollar to the black farmers and pay top dollars to the white farmers. You understand? And this is how we begin to slowly lose a lot of the farmlands that we got now. Now, I believe we control only about 1.2% of the farmlands in America. You understand? And as, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Asians own more farmland than we do now.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get into this
Sure.
article. This article, like I said before, the article is make farmers black again. African Americans fight discrimination to own farmland. And it says, at the start of the 20th century, 1 in 7 farmers in the United States was black. In the decades that followed, however, black Americans dispossessed of an estimated 3 million acres of land. 3 million acres, that's a lot. It's a lot compared to what we own. It's not a lot compared to what the oppressor owned. You understand what I'm saying? It sounds a lot, and it is a lot compared to what we own now. All right? Many descendants of black farmers moved north to seek jobs in other industries removed from the familiarity of agricultural backgrounds. Now, nearly 100 years later, people of color are leading a resurgence of interest in farming in the Northeast. And yet, for these farmers, the barriers to starting a farm remain high. Between lending discrimination and rising costs, many obstacles stand in the way of black Americans looking to own farmland. Not to mention, think about it right now, right? The gas prices is going up like crazy. You had the coronavirus in 2020, and now you got the gas prices on top of that, which makes it really hard for our people because of the discrimination practices, and then the prices of everything going up too. And on top of that, if somebody goes up on the price of something, our oppressor would rather buy it and pay for it from his own than come to the black farmers. And then if they do come to the black farmers, they lowballs, okay? The family behind the Triple J farm, a chicken farm in Windsor, New York, knows this. That's why they are farming with the message of make farmers black again. You understand? James Minton, 85, owns the farm. It's a small, at just 20 acres. Now think about this, 20 acres is a small farm. That's really nothing compared to a 300-acre average. An average farm is 300 acres, you understand? Because they're providing industries, not just little small stores, but industries, you understand what I'm saying? And black farmers did own that kind of land until the USDA started to step in and started discrimination practices, causing black farmers to begin to slowly lose their land. You understand? Got something, sir? Okay, all right. It'll be someplace for them to come. Hold up, let me go back. It says James Minton, 85, owns a farm. It's a small and just 20 acres, nearly 300 egg-laying chickens. There's a patch of maple trees from which Minton makes syrup each winter, a barn to hold the cow, and a pond stocked full of fish, where his youngest great-granddaughter liked to play. In all, Minton had 7 children, 28 grandchildren, 40 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild. He bought this land for them. Think about it, right? This is where in the scriptures it tells us that we supposed to be able to, hand out lands down. We're supposed to be able to eat the good things of the land. And we're supposed to have an inheritance to give to our children. But we can't have an inheritance to give to our children when we living under an oppressor like the one that we live in America, trying to take everything that he can from us. You understand what I'm saying? That's an impossibility. And with that, let's grab Micah chapter 4. Verse 11.
Micah 4 and 11.
Yeah, Micah chapter 4, verse 11. Salaki, sir. Before we grab that, let's grab Ezekiel 35 and 5. My bad. I'm sorry, Salaki.
Ezekiel 35 and 5.
Ezekiel 35 and 5.
I'm used to using my phone
Oh, I forgot. Hey, you got that?
If you got it, go ahead. Go
Sir,
ahead.
can you read that?
Come.
Ezekiel 35:5.
Right. Right. 35.
Yeah, Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5.
This is Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end.
Let's read that again. We're going to read that again, but we're going to read it slow. We're going to break this down. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred.
It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred. What does perpetual mean? What does perpetual mean?
Continue.
Continual, and ongoing, and unquenchable. You understand? It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred for us. Our oppressor has had a perpetual hatred for us from the time that we set foot on these lands. You understand? Even our oppressors in Egypt had a perpetual hatred for us.
Right.
You understand? This is the reason why the Most High had to free us from the Egyptians. You understand? From the Egyptian captivity. Because our oppressor at that time had a perpetual hatred. So much so that he caused us to work with rigor, right? He caused us to work under extreme conditions. You understand? In Egypt. To the point where the children of Israel cried out to the Most High. You understand? To free them from that oppressor. You understand? And that's what we have to do today. Because that's what's going on with us today. We're being destroyed slowly. So much so that our people have been in captivity for so long that we don't realize that we're in captivity. A lot of us think that this is the way life is supposed to be. You understand? But life is not supposed to be like this. Brothers and sisters should not have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to maintain and to survive. You understand what I'm saying? And the oppressor is so, what is the word? It's so evil. That's the word I'm gonna use. He's so evil that he causes a family of 2 to have to work 2 jobs. You understand? To maintain. You understand? And then he puts the woman, if she's single, she puts the woman on welfare and makes sure that the brother doesn't come and live in it or under that roof with her. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a perpetual hatred for people because the oppressor does not do that to his own. You understand? The oppressor loves his own enough to make sure that his people can survive. You understand? But no other nation of people can survive under these conditions the way we can. You understand? This is a punishment because we are not following the law, statutes, and commandments. The only thing we have to do is cry out to the Most High and come back to the law, statutes, and commandments. You understand? Read on.
And has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword.
It says, and shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword. We being laid down every day in the streets by our oppressor. You understand? And I spoke to somebody the other day, and they was like, well, black people kill black people. And that's the thing. That's how destroyed we are. You understand? We so destroyed that when we speak about the oppressor, and we speak about what's going on with us, they bring up that our people, and I'm talking about the 12 tribes, we bring up the situation, oh, well, black people kill black people too. You understand? Well, the reason why we're killing our own people is because of the condition that we've been placed in by our oppressor. You understand? We know we're wrong in doing what we're doing, but we can't totally blame our people for reacting to a condition that we've been placed in. You understand? It's just like it says in this scripture, it says, he has had a perpetual hatred. And in having a perpetual hatred for our people, he'll place us in those conditions for our people to do exactly what we're doing now. But we have to understand who the oppressor is. What you got?
Kind of like this. I was watching, and it's a comedy. I don't know if y'all already seen it. With Jim Carrey.
Right.
It's called Fun with Dick and Jane.
Right.
Like when he gets screwed over by like this big corporate company he was working for, and the dude was stealing off top.
Right.
And he made him go on TV and give an announcement and all that. So they went broke. They was losing all these stocks and everything was going down. So they turned to crime. They started robbing.
Right.
stealing everything. I'm talking, he's stealing lawn from his neighbors, putting on his grass, because they got their lawn repoed. Like, he was doing all types of crime. He even went to stick up a dude at the ATM, and the dude turned around and was his homeboy.
Right.
He tried to play it off. But it just shows you, like, you know what I mean? Like, they know that what poverty will do to a person if you can't do. They about to get put out their house, and he just did what he felt like he had to do.
Well, think about this. I'm gonna show you perpetual hatred, right? You just brought up that situation, and our oppressor does that every day, all day, every day, right? But they flip the script, and what you see on the news is brothers and sisters being locked up. Brothers and sisters committing crimes. They make it seem like we committing all the crimes, when in fact, if you look at the statistics, our oppressor commits way more crimes than we do. This is a perpetual hatred. Having the hate that they have for us causes them to muddy the waters and make the picture look like as though we are the criminals of the earth, when in fact they are the criminals of the earth.
Right.
And it says, and they shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword. They destroy us. They not only destroy us physically, but they destroy us mentally. Think about the brothers who are physically destroyed. Think about the sisters that are physically destroyed. A sister's physically destroyed when she goes out to the street and sells her body. When she goes into a strip club and swings her behind on a pole, you understand, just to make ends meet. We are mentally destroyed too. They shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword. The force of the sword is their child support. You understand? The force of the sword, not just only a gun or them beating us down in the street, but it's the tools that they use to the snares and the nets. You understand that the Bible puts the snares and the nets that control our everyday life, that causes us to be in certain situations. Go ahead, sir.
I'm gonna say this real quick. Everything you said is just heavy as hell. There's one more component to it that sometimes we don't think about.
Right.
And that is that this devil sets the boundaries for criminality. He the one that makes the laws that says what's criminal and what's not criminal. For instance, if you do a Ponzi scheme that takes $3 million from the elderly, you get less time as if you went out in the street, punch somebody and grab their pocketbook and snatch their pocketbook. You know what I'm saying? You hit somebody and snatch their pocketbook, and you get that charge of violence, you'll go to prison for up to 10 to 15 years. But you do a Ponzi scheme, a white collar crime, and you then affected people in a much more broad and deep, impactful way.
Right.
You may not even get prison time.
Exactly.
You may be out in 6 months and gotta pay restitution that you'll never pay.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Just like when they had powder cocaine against rock cocaine, which is the same goddamn thing, just one is just cooked up with ammonia, and one is just straight cocaine. One that you can smoke easily in and out of crack houses and out in the street, and one you can go in your house and cook up the powder because you got time. You live in a house. You by yourself, you got time. A brother running the street, he ain't got time. He be ready. He gotta get it on. He gotta get it on right then and there. Now he don't need that ready. But at the time of expedience, you see what I'm saying? So that's why what you're saying is so heavy, because the situation pushes the criminality, and they highlight our criminality, but never highlight theirs. That type of propaganda. Heavy, man. Heavy what you going into. Continue.
Right. That's heavy what you saying too, because like you said, you understand, you got the powder cocaine, which especially in the 70s and the early 80s, only our oppressors could afford that. We broke it down to the rock and the crack cocaine because they knew it was affordable for us. So now, with the pounds of powder cocaine, they got little tiny cents to slap on the wrist. with that crack cocaine, you got football numbers. You get
Mm.
30 years. I got brothers that just came out from the mid 80s, just got out, and now, you remember Eric Taylor?
Tell them about
Eric
it.
Taylor, right?
Tell them about it.
Listen, Eric Taylor just got out 5 years ago.
Tell them about it.
5 years ago from the mid 80s. You understand what I'm saying? So if the disparity is, I mean, it's right there. You understand the way that they treat us? You know what I'm saying? That's the perpetual hatred. You understand? And like you said, they shed the blood of the children of Israel with the force of the sword. The force of the sword are the means that they use to get us caught up in all of these small situations where if they'll send their children to rehab. You understand? They'll send their children to boot camps for 6 months, where they'll send our children, 14 or 15-year-olds, they'll send them to the adult prison for 15 to 20 years, knowing that that's going to destroy them. And that continues the cycle to have us keep funneling through that system. You understand? Where they continue to get paid off of our people. Go ahead.
In the time of their calamity, when we start.
Go ahead. Yep, you got it. Go ahead.
In the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end.
In the time that their iniquity had an end. Listen, at the time we decide not to be destroyers of our own people, not to do the evil things of the earth, they find a reason, or they make a reason to continually to step on us and grind us into power. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And with this situation right here, think about it, right? A lot of brothers and sisters lost a lot of farmland to the point where it threw them out into these streets. You understand? It took their children out into these streets and it caused them to fall into the same predicaments and conditions. You understand? This is the only thing that this is what they want from us. You understand? They want to get all of that farmland back. They want to keep continually destroying our people and not having us to do anything. Now, I want to get into this right here. We have and Kawan always hear me talking about the doctrine of exclusion, right? The doctrine of exclusion is a law that was created in 1638. It was created in the Maryland colony, and it flourished all through the other colonies, the other 13 colonies, as it began to take wind. You understand? And the doctrine of exclusion, let me get that, let me make sure I got that, was a law. It was a slave code law. You understand? And the doctrine of exclusion said that no slave or descendant of a slave could enjoy the fruits of white society.
Come.
You understand what I'm saying? The doctrine of exclusion was a law that they specifically lived by. And a lot of brothers and sisters look at us right now, and a lot of brothers and sisters don't understand, well, why are there no black car industry? You understand? The doctrine of exclusion controls that. The doctrine of exclusion specifically says, in layman's terms, that these people can't own anything that could uplift them. These people can't own anything that could get them ahead. These people can't own anything that will put them over anybody else in this country. That's why every nation of people that come over here into this country takes a step up. As soon as they step on American soil, they are one step above us. You understand? The Afghans are about to be next, and the Ukrainians are going to be right after them. You understand? They welcome the Ukrainians in with open arms, but they got the Haitians sitting right here at the border. That's a perpetual hatred. You understand? And this is how we are continually being destroyed, because our people don't stand up and help our own people. Yet, our oppressor helps all of his people. You understand? The heathen nations, the Chinese, the Koreans, the Africans, the Arabs, all of them help their people, but we help all of the other nations, but don't help our own people. You understand? We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. You understand what was that? Hosea 4 and 6. You understand? We destroyed for a lack of knowledge, and knowledge is the law, statutes, and commandments. The law, statutes, and commandments tells us that we are supposed to help our own people. The law, statutes, and commandments say that we are supposed to help our people first and make sure we good, and then whatever's left over, you can give to other nations if you feel so, if you choose to do so. You understand what I'm saying? It's not a law that we have to help them. And the Ashkenazi Jew, or the, what they call them, the Khazari, whatever. Go ahead, sir.
I hate to interrupt because you going in so deep and so beautiful. I love it. But look, we seeing right here today how much empathy the white man has for his people.
Right.
He only cares about his own humanity. He doesn't care about anybody else's.
Right.
When the Ukraine had issues, billions right off the bat went directly to the Ukraine. He opened up coffers of weaponry, defensive, offensive, shot that directly to the Ukraine, so much so that they are able to hold off one of the strongest armies on earth. This is because of the prowess and weaponry that America is sending to the Ukraine. They're not a NATO member. They are not somebody that the United States has any kind of obligation to assist. The entire American populace has to suffer in inflation. We're talking about gas, food on every level. On every level, 30% of the grain grown in the world is grown in the Ukraine and in Russia, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The oil, the natural gas, Russia. We buying as much as 20% from Russia. We stopped doing all of that because of their inhumanity, because of Russia's inhumanity towards Ukraine, that they say. Everybody in America has to suffer. Now remember, white people say, I don't want to pay for welfare. I don't want to pay their welfare.
Exactly.
I don't want to pay that. But when it comes to Ukraine,
Go ahead.
good night almighty,
Right.
they willing to make everybody suffer. They willing to take the national gross of America, and we talking trillions, and push that into Ukraine because they can't stand to see their people being bombed, their people being refugees, little blue-eyed babies being attacked by missiles and dying. They can't see that. But as soon as it happened, they racism went full-blown for us.
Right.
Brothers that was playing basketball over there, they was stuck over there. Down in tunnels. Ukrainians wouldn't let them leave. They said, this train is for Ukrainians. This not for you. We'll give you a gun and let you fight. I'm going to fight for Ukraine. For what? What y'all done for me? But they don't give a damn about nobody else's humanity. And I'll tell you this last thing. And I hate to interrupt you because what you're doing is so powerful. I'll tell you this last thing, man. The problem with us is that we want to be Americans.
Right.
And because we want to be Americans, we fail to understand what America was built for and what it does to black people. When you become an American, when you engage in the spirit and the culture and society of America, you become Americans.
Right.
America hates black people.
Right.
America was built to exploit and oppress black people. So that's exactly what you become. And you have empathy for who they have empathy for. The Ukraine. You can't have empathy for the Haitians. You can't have empathy for the Mexicans that's in cages right now on the border. They're refugees.
Right.
They need to get into this country because America has given the cartels so much firepower that they outgunned the military and the police.
Right.
And it's so much war and destruction that they'll come climb over the wall and just drop their babies over.
Right.
But they cannot come. They can't come. Why? Because the people that run this nation love a particular people.
Right.
And we must all love that people.
Right.
The leaders of this nation hates a particular people.
Right.
And when you join this nation and the spirit of this nation, you must hate that people.
Right.
Salaki, I ain't mad at the brother.
That was heavy. Right?
Yeah.
And just what you just said, I want to I'm going to drop that, right? I want to read this. Go to Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. I want to read that first. 12 and 10.
That's an apocryphal. Ecclesiasticus.
I can read it. I can read it if you need.
No. He's going to get it for you.
Listen, it's crazy, right? Because
What you say, Ecclesiasticus?
Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10.
12 and 10.
We like to, and we see all of this, right? And I'm glad he brought that up because we watched I heard the radio last week. I heard a couple of brothers call in on the radio station talking about they want to go fight in Ukraine and help the Ukrainians out.
Yeah.
You understand? We are blinded. We are so blinded. Now these brothers want to go and shoot bullets for the oppressor, right? But they don't want to stand up and get into this ISUPK and fight for their brothers, their own brothers and sisters, the way we should be fighting.
Right.
You got so many so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives that want to stand up and go over there and fight for Ukraine, but don't want to stand up for your own people that's being destroyed right here in the country. The same way those Ukrainians being destroyed. Now, to me, what's going on over there, that has nothing to do with me. That's why I don't like crime.
Right.
That has nothing to do with us. You understand? We should be right here fighting for the injustices that's going on with our people right now. The way that we fight that is we get into this ISUPK.
Right.
We start giving to our brothers and sisters. We start taking care of our own.
Right.
Stop letting our oppressor dictate because they given to us. We stop letting them dictate and take care of our own. You understand?
Yeah.
Now, read that what you got.
It's Ecclesiasticus, chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemies.
Say that again.
Never trust thine enemies.
And that's exactly what them brothers and sisters was doing, trusting in the enemy when you want to go and fight for an oppressor that's still destroying you right here. And if I'm not mistaken, they told the brothers and sisters, if y'all decide to come over here and help in this fight for Ukrainians, be prepared to hear the Ukrainians call you the N-word. Now they said that on the news. Listen, I'm going to tell you how destroyed we are. We so destroyed that they said this on the news and brothers and sisters still want to go over there and fight.
Right.
That's destroyed.
Right.
That's a destroyed people.
Right.
You understand? Only the 12 tribes of Israel can be that destroyed. You understand? Yeah. Only us. You understand? And let me ask a question. When Trayvon Martin was murdered, when Ahmaud Gurley was murdered, when what's her name, Breonna Taylor was murdered, you understand how many Ukrainians stood up for them? When George Floyd was murdered, how many Ukrainians stood up and cried about that?
Right.
None. So why do we consistently stand up and cry for people who don't cry for us? That's just like us crying about we African, we need to help the Africans. How many Africans have came over here and helped us in our own fight?
Right.
So we are destroyed people. Hosea 4 and 6 says that we are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. I mean, think about it. How much knowledge do you need when you see this stuff happening on TV?
Right.
They're going to tell you that it's a possibility that they could call you the N-word, and you still want to go and fight. That's a destroyed people. You understand? That's like a battered wife. You understand? No matter how much the husband beats the hell out of her, cracks across her skull, swells her eyes up after she healed back up, I'ma still stay with him.
Right.
I
Right.
still love him. I'ma still do. You understand what I'm saying? The man can half kill you. These nations are half killing us, and we still want to stand up and we still want to fight for them. It says, never trust thine enemy, and we continually trust our enemy. Go ahead and read.
Yeah. For like as iron rusteth, so is his
It
wickedness.
says, for as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Listen, the wickedness, no matter how much they hide it, it always shows through.
Right.
It always manifests itself. You understand? And we are so destroyed, even when the wickedness manifests itself, we still have so much love for the oppressor that we still want to go out and fight for him. We still want to go out and shoot bullets for him. We still want to go out and fall to the ground, let our blood leak out and die for the oppressor. You understand? No matter what we do. You understand? No matter what we do. We look at the oppressor as our God. Lowercase G-O-D. You understand? We look at them as a God, and we look for validation. You understand? We figure if we do this for him, eventually he'll love me. If we do this for him, eventually he'll treat me as a human. You understand? How can you look towards somebody who looks at you like that? You understand? Drop down to that 16 verse.
Yeah. Verse 16. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips.
Think about how sweetly you had to have been taught to say as a so-called black, Hispanic, and native. Think about how sweetly the enemy had to have spoken to you for you to stand up and say, you know what? I want to go shed my blood over in Ukraine for the Ukrainians. After they tell you that, well, you know it's a chance that the Ukrainians could call you the N-word when you get over there. You understand?
Right.
You still want to stand up and fight. The enemy speaks sweetly with his lips. We are destroyed people.
Yeah.
You understand? That no matter what these people do to us, we still want to stand up and stand arm in arm, lock arm in arm, and be hand in hand with them. You understand? There's nowhere in the world. Read on.
Yeah. But in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
Listen, in his heart. Think about it. They speak sweetly. Vote. Look at vote. They speak sweetly with their lips, but the whole time, slow Joe Biden is thinking about how I can continually destroy these people. How can I keep my foot on their neck? You understand? This is what they think. Listen, look at Ketanji Brown Jackson, Supreme Court, right? You started with Thurgood Marshall. He was married to a Filipino Japanese. So he never even saw the world through our eyes, through how we were destroyed. You understand? Then you had Clarence Thomas. He married to the oppressor against affirmative action. The very thing that's supposed to help the people who are being discriminated against, to help them out of discrimination cases. Clarence Thomas is against affirmative action as a black man in America. And you are the descendants of the slaves that came over here on slave ships. How could you possibly be against affirmative action? But it happens. Our enemy speaks sweetly with his lips. Got him through. Go ahead, sir.
Salaki, well, you just going so deep. This is the last time. This is the last time.
Go ahead.
Did you know that every single candidate that Biden brought up to be that to take the place of that Supreme Court judge, they were black women with white husbands.
Got it already in my book.
Every Salaki,
Got it
go
in my
ahead.
book already.
Go
You
ahead.
understand? Because when he first brought the list out, I said, listen, being in the UPK make you listen and think differently. I wrote all 10 of their names down, and it was incredible. You understand? The enemy speaks sweetly with his lips, but he imagined how to overthrow thee into a pit. You understand? They every move that our oppressor make is calculated. You understand what I'm saying?
Come.
He does not make a move that is not calculated
Come.
to go against us. Think about
Come.
it. If he didn't think the way he thought, the civil rights movement would have worked out for us. Affirmative action would have worked out for us. Think about this too, right? The Asians come over, 6 Asians get hurt, and now they got an Asian hate law.
Right.
You can be prosecuted to the full extent of the law if you are found to have hit an Asian person out of Asian hate. Now, an Asian person can come up to you, call you the N-word, and do all kinds of stuff. You can strike out at them, and then you'll be charged with a hate crime.
Come.
You understand?
Tell them why they're so important with the marriage of the white man.
And listen, it's important because, listen, this is how they, wait a minute, say that again?
Why is it so important that all of those candidates had a white
It's
husband?
important because the number one reason for all of them to have had a white husband is because of why? What does the scripture say? Marry not thy sons into thy daughters, and don't marry thy daughters into thy sons, because they will cause thee to follow other gods. These women are not looking at the world through the eyes of a slave. They're looking at the world through the eyes of the oppressor. Everything that they see, Harvard, Yale, all of those law schools, all those Ivy League schools that they went through and all of that, everything is specifically calculated so that they don't understand your grief. They don't understand how you're being destroyed. They only see the world through the eyes of the oppressor. Everything is white to them. You understand? Except for their skin. That's it. Ketanji Brown Jackson, she is as black as they get on the outside. But her heart beats of America. Her heart beats of her oppressive husband. Her heart beats with the love of the oppressor. Go ahead.
That's it. Love.
Love.
So what is love? Love is a duty.
Love is a duty.
So if you love this oppressor,
You gonna love his ways.
there you go.
You understand what I'm saying? When he first came out with that list, I wrote all of their names down. I got it in the book right here. I wrote all of their names down, and I said it's gotta be a connection for him to choose these 10 women right here.
Right.
And they broke it down, and they all got white husbands. Clarence Thomas, a white wife.
Right.
Thurgood Marshall started off and had a black wife, but his wife died, and he picked up an oppressor, and then, by gosh, it went on. Because he doesn't see the world as we see it. He sees it through the eyes of his white wife. And this is what God says. God says, don't do that, because if you do that, you're gonna follow other gods. These sisters are following Christianity. These sisters are following the oppressor. You understand? They don't see the world the way we see it. Can you be fair? How can you ask a sister, the descendant of slaves, can she be fair when it comes to your people being prosecuted? We get prosecuted to the fullest extent. You can't, basically what they were saying, you won't give these brothers and sisters a break, will you? You will continually stomp them out like we doing right now. Be conservative. That's what a conservative is. A conservative is one who wants to keep the system just the way it is. That's conservative. I don't want to change anything. Let's just stay the way it is. Let's continually destroy these black people. Go ahead, finish it.
He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood.
Look, he gonna weep with his eyes. He gonna make you feel compassion. And that's the thing. We destroy from that alone. You understand? He weep with his eyes. We gonna find all kinds of compassion. Oh man, look at the Ukrainians over there being destroyed. You understand? Look at the Haitians at the border. He gonna find. Listen, it says he gonna find it. He gonna find. But he will find opportunity if he will not be satisfied with just blood. He wants your whole soul. Listen, Those 10 sisters, our oppressor has their soul. They're not just satisfied with the blood, sweat, and tears, but they have their soul. They had their what do they call it when you undying loyalty. You understand? The loyalty lies. Their loyalty lies with the oppressor. You understand? Their loyalty lies with the oppressor. Just like what's her name? The vice president. What's her name again? Kamala Harris. You understand? Look how she did. Look how she totally destroyed. Now she's not us. She's a heathen.
Right.
But look how she totally destroyed brothers and sisters in San Francisco. You understand what I'm saying? Even when she found out that they were innocent, she continually destroyed them anyway. You understand? Listen, we can't trust in our oppressor. You understand? We can't trust in our oppressor. We are destroyed people. Now I want to get into this article right here. Listen, it's an investigation by the counter found that the USDA promoted misleading data to depict a fictional renaissance in black farming. Listen, they trying to make it seem like stuff is working out, but stuff not working out. The narrative falsely inflated the department's records on civil rights, making it look like, look, we abiding by the law, we helping out the brothers and sisters when they get this farmland, we making sure that they trying to make it seem like that every benefit that they supposed to get under civil rights, we giving them all of the benefits, right? And ultimately it cost black farmers land, money, and agency, right? Brothers and sisters we talking about, they losing that farmland. 13 million acres at the turn of the century in the 1900s, right? And if I'm not mistaken, we down to about 900,000 acres. Or is it less than that? 562,000 acres. But we're going to get into that right here, right? Because 1 week ago, the lawmakers convened for the first House panel in more than a decade on the issues of reparations for the descendants of slaves in the United States. The date chosen for this hearing, June 19th, had a historic resonance. It was the 154th anniversary of the day General Gordon Granger announced the freedom of the last American slaves in Galveston, Texas. A date still celebrated as Juneteenth. Look, we celebrate anything. And brothers and sisters still don't know that we still not free. You understand? Critics of reparations contend that the U.S. government paid its debt to black Americans long ago. What did you get paid? You get paid? You get paid?
I don't remember no money.
I don't remember. I'm still. Listen, this is the first time I didn't even really read that part. It says critics of reparations contend that the U.S. government paid its debt to black Americans. Think about this.
Woo!
Think about this, right? Now say they paid their debt to black Americans, right? Think about this. The so-called Jewish man is still getting paid by the Germans today, $300 billion a year, right? That go on a debit card, right? That's welfare, right? They not only get paid by the so-called Germans, but they also get money from the United States.
Tell them.
The United States
Tell
had
them.
nothing to do
Tell
with
them.
what went on in Germany.
God.
You understand what
Tell
I'm saying?
them.
The United States
Yo,
is paying
man.
the so-called Jewish man for something that they didn't do.
We are paying.
Yeah, no,
We the
Salakia,
taxpayers.
You're right.
Salakia.
We
Salakia.
the so-called Jewish man is something that we had nothing to do with. So they get money from Germany and they get their money from us here in America. Because this is our tax dollars. Right? If you notice, right? Our oppressor never complains. He complains about taxes, but he complains about his taxes are too high until we find out he's not paying any taxes. You understand? Now we get busted, we get cracked over the head in taxes and stuff that we don't owe. And it says the U.S. government paid its debt to black Americans long ago, if not during emancipation, then more recently. I don't think reparations for something that happened 100. Whoa, hold up. You don't think reparations for something that happened 150 years ago, for whom none of us currently living are responsible for it. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not responsible for what happened in the Holocaust because I wasn't born, but I'm surely paying the taxes for it, right?
Gun.
So it's okay for them to get reparations and still be getting paid. But for 150 years ago, we wasn't here when that happened. I don't think it's our business. This is crazy for something that happened 150 years ago, for whom none of us currently living are responsible. Is a good idea. Senate Majority Leader, who, of course, Mitch McConnell, told reporters one day before the hearing, we tried to deal with our original sins of slavery by fighting the Civil War. And see, that's another thing right there. The Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. The Civil War had everything to do with keeping the Union together, keeping the South together so there wouldn't be two separate countries. The Civil War was about keeping the Union and the states together. Abraham Lincoln said, if I could free the slaves and keep the Union together, I would. If I didn't have to free the slaves and keep the Union together, I would. He could care less about the slaves. He was a slave owner himself. What would he care about freeing slaves? They only freed the slaves, or so-called freed the slaves in the South. That was to keep control. You understand? Because they felt like the South was getting, what was that? More money. Basically more money. They was getting paid in the South. The money began to make them more prominent in the North. You understand? So to keep control, that's why they did what they did. Think about it, right? They had slaves in the North too, right?
Gun.
They were just called what? What were they called? Butlers and maids. It's a slave. Understand? Somebody who you dictate how you pay them, you tell them when they can come and when they can go. That's the same thing as a slave. Slaves in the North just had a better living arrangement than in the South. You understand? That's the only difference. The slaves in the North were called butlers and maids. The slaves in the South were called slaves. There's no difference though. You understand? Mitch McConnell, one day before the hearing, we tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting the Civil War, by passing landmark civil rights legislation. Now think about this. What has civil rights done for us to this day? Civil rights has done nothing for us. But wait. Civil rights has helped the Asians. Civil rights has helped the so-called African. Civil rights has helped the so-called Arab come over here and get established. You understand what I'm saying? But civil rights did nothing for the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives of America. If it did, why are they keeping the Hispanics at the borders in cages?
Don't forget the white woman.
Oh, and civil rights definitely did something for the oppressor's, the oppressor's wife. You understand what I'm saying? The so-called white woman. You understand what I'm saying? She got all kinds of legislation for her, but think about this, right? What kind of legislation do you need if your husband owns everything? You understand what I'm saying? Your husband, you're the wife of the person who owns everything. But you want to be on the same level as him, so you're going to fight for all kinds of legislation. So what the white woman does is she fools the black woman into fighting this cause.
You on it. You right there.
You understand what I'm saying? So civil rights worked out for the oppressor's wife. The Asians, the Arabs, the Africans. It's going to help the Afghans, and it's going to help the Ukrainians. You understand? The fight was for civil rights for the so-called blacks. And now they saying color. You understand? So anybody of color, and that's where we get mixed up and we get lost at. Because they say, oh, the first vice president woman of color. And That's where the lines get distorted. See, they use all kinds of the oppressor. It says he speaks sweetly with his lips, right? He speaks sweetly with his lips, but in his imagination, he's figuring out a way to overthrow us. We're gonna have the first woman of color as a vice president. All the black women went out there and went out and voted, not understanding that this woman is going to continually destroy our people the way it has been done since we landed on these shores. You understand? We are destroying people. Like you said, go back to the beginning. We are destroying people for a lack of knowledge. We don't understand who we are, where we come from. You understand? We are the descendants of the children out of the pages of this Bible. This is our history. A lot of our people think that this is a religious book, but this is our history right here. This is our Constitution. This is our moral standard, the Bible. This is what we should be living by right here. You understand? Let's go. Let's read on. It says, but a century of oppression did not end with Barack Obama. Barack Obama wasn't even our people. That was a so-called African. You understand? Barack Obama wasn't elected to do anything for black people. He said, I'm not the president of black people. I'm the president of the American people.
Tell him.
You understand? And if you really think about it, we're not even considered Americans. You understand? That's being a citizen.
Tell him we're not.
If we was a citizen, we wouldn't have to fight for civil rights. A citizen does not need civil rights because by right, he's a citizen already. You understand? If you're not a citizen, you need to fight for civil rights. You understand? Civil rights. Think about it, right? The Asians are not citizens, right? So they get civil rights. The Afghans are not citizens, so they get civil rights. The Arabs are not citizens, so they get civil rights. Naturally, they're not citizens. The Ukrainians come over here, they naturally get civil rights because they are not citizens. We have to fight for civil rights because we are not citizens. This is the reason why you can be destroyed in the streets and murdered in the streets because by law, you are not a citizen. The only reason why some people prosper from it because of some of the brutality that's being used and being seen all across the earth.
Right.
So they have to. You understand? The police officer that shot the boy in the back 17 times in Chicago, he just got out after a year and a half. A year and a half after they committed them, after what did they say? After he was convicted for murder, right? But it's all show. It says the enemy speaks sweetly with his lips. We got him for murder, right? But it says right here, it says, but in his heart, he imagined how to overthrow thee into a pit. Got him for murder. He got 16 years. You do a year and a half and he out. A year and a half and he out. You just threw that people's family into a pit. You just destroyed the whole family. You understand what I'm saying? Your son gets shot in the back 17 times and now you totally destroyed. You think you got justice. You think he's gonna do all of these years. He out in a year and a half. And the thing about it is, he was in a boot camp, basically. You understand? Where you go where other officers or other police are. You understand? Other corrupted or, convicted officials go. He ain't go nowhere, in the cut, you understand? Or, in a penitentiary. He ain't go nowhere like that. You understand? Just destroyed the whole family. You understand? It says, look, you imagine how to throw you into a pit. You understand? We got justice. We got justice. And look at it. Think about this, right? What's the guy's name that murdered George Floyd? Don't be surprised if he be out in 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Just look at Ahmaud Arbery. The two hillbillies that murdered Ahmaud Arbery, right? Don't be surprised if you see them out. They tried to get them out. They tried to have a closed to get them in federal court. Federal court means they go to federal prison. Federal prison means they had a country club. You understand? Just so happened Ahmaud Arbery mama came back in before they tried to do a little underhanded deal. You understand? This is what they do. They speak sweetly with their lips. We got to convince you. Let's go in the back and see if we can get them off. You understand? Destroying families. You understand? What's the little young kid name that had the little toy gun? Police got out in 2 seconds.
Tamir Rice.
Tamir Rice. And I seen that video, man, that's terrible. You understand? But this is what happens to us. You understand? Even with this thing right here with the USDA, destroying brothers and sisters with these black farms. You understand? Taking farms from them. You understand? Destroying them so much so where you're supposed to be helping them get contracts. You're supposed to be helping them sell their food and their stuff in it. And you understand? Selling their wares and everything like that. And they getting undercut by the USDA, the person that's supposed to control and help everybody. He's helping the white farmers, but he's not helping the black farmers. We've been destroyed so much so that we continually trust in our oppressor. It says, as his 8-year term as Secretary of Agriculture due to a close. Let me go back. Here we present Nathan Rosenberg. That's a so-called Jewish man. And Rice Stuckey. 2-year investigation into the ways agricultural census data was distorted to depict fictional renaissance of black farming, making it seem like, oh, we made a breakthrough. Black farming is booming again, when it wasn't. You understand? Brothers and sisters still losing their lands. You understand? This false narrative inflated USDA records on civil rights and further hurt black farmers. The very people the department claimed it had made historic efforts to help. As an 8-year term as Secretary of Agriculture due to a close, Tom Vilsack claimed to have ushered in a new era for civil rights. At the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, the federal agency that black farmers have long called the last plantation, in a lengthy post on Medium published in the summer of 2016, Vilsack detailed USDA accomplishments under his watch, making the case that President Barack Obama's administration had brought profound change. And Barack Obama, I guess he said Barack Obama was the president, huh? So he helped. You had the oppressor and the Africans working together to continually destroy us. You understand what I'm saying? Give me Micah chapter 4, verse 11. Micah chapter 4, verse 11.
This is Micah chapter 4, verse 11. Now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion.
This is now also many nations are gathered against us. You got Barack Obama's an African. You got the USDA, that's the oppressor. You got both of them working together. Nations are gathered against us. Then on top of that, they have the Asians and the Arabs coming in buying up farmland too. You understand? So you got many nations that are gathered against us. You understand? That say, let her be defiled. They letting us destroy. They letting us destroy ourselves by looking up to our oppressor, thinking that our oppressor is going to help us. Let us be defiled. Let us trust in our enemy. The scriptures tell us, trust not thine enemy. Never trust thine enemy. You understand? And we continually trust in our enemy. You understand? And let our eyes look upon Zion. They looking upon us because they making their bones off of us. You understand? Their eyes are looking upon Zion. They looking upon us as a meal ticket. Every nation that comes over here feeds off of us. You understand? It's only going to be a minute before Ukrainians be owning corner stores too. They're going to be doing something. They're going to be selling something. Don't be surprised if they start owning all of the car workshop industry. Don't be surprised if all of the black brothers and sisters that own these car shops have to get some kind of new licensing or whatever, you understand, to own these car shops. The Ukrainians come right in and own everything, own all of that car industry. They got the East Indians own all of Dunkin' Donuts. They got the Koreans selling us soul food, you understand? They got the Africans selling fake bags and purses and shoes and stuff. You understand? Everything that we in, how you gonna have the Chinese people selling us, you understand, hair care products? You understand what I'm saying? Everybody comes over here and they feeds off of us. There's no nation that does not feed off of us. You understand? Everybody gets a pass when it comes to us. You understand? And we don't see that, especially with our sisters. And this is the reason why the man should be over the woman. This is the reason why God placed the man over the woman. It says, God is the head of Christ, Christ is the head of man, and man is the head of woman. That's order. God made that order because he knew that woman needed a head over her. He knew that woman needed some kind of guidance because she is not, I don't want to say the wrong word. What am I looking for?
She's naive.
Naive, exactly. Naive, exactly. You understand? And as long as we follow in the Most High Christ, we can guide her in the correct direction. But because America has given our women, allowed them to usurp authority over us.
Right.
I use the right word, right? Usurp that authority over us. This is what causes the woman to say, you know what, I don't need a man. Look, think about all the songs that came out in the last 10 years.
Right.
You understand about women not needing man, I can do it on my own, I can make it on my own, blah, blah, blah. You understand what I'm saying? The black woman is the most loneliest woman on the planet. Right?
Good man.
You never ever hear an Asian woman saying, oh, I don't need that Asian man. You never hear an Arab woman say, I don't need him.
I don't need no scrub.
I don't need no scrub and all of that. That's the 90s. You know what? It goes back to the 90s. We hit it harder than that. So it's been, think about it, right? From the mid-90s, it has actually took that 25 years to actually sink in.
Right.
And now women are living it. You understand what I'm saying? Think about how many women are on the polls now. Even in videos, they on the polls. Even in the videos, they destroy it. Think about Atlanta Housewives. All of these black shows that depict our women as being the most evil women on the planet. You understand? All of these shows that make our brothers look like the weakest brothers on the planet. You understand? We're being destroyed. What you got?
God, now I want to say is like the black woman is the only independent woman.
The only independent woman. The only woman that claims she's independent.
Right. Okay.
You never hear the oppressors woman. As mad as she gets it at her man, as mad as those women were at Trump when he got elected. You never heard them say anything bad against Trump. You know why? Because they knew at the end of the day, Trump had their best interests at heart. This is what our women don't understand, that we have their best interests at heart. All they have to do is fall into place. You understand? Fall into get in where they supposed to fit in. You understand what I'm saying? We are destroyed as a people for a lack of knowledge. That's the scripture. You go back.
Yeah, right.
You understand?
What have you done for me lately?
Well, man, come on, man. You know what? And you know what? If it hadn't been for the ISUPK, I would never realize all of those songs were nothing but a destructive pattern and a pen to destroy us. You understand what I'm saying? what have you done for me? And you never ever hear another woman of any other race say that to her man. You don't even really hear him saying it. You understand what I'm saying? Think about it. As tall as the Kardashians are, you never hear them speaking of their man. I ain't talking about who they married to. I'm talking about their people, their race. You never hear them talk about that. As destroyed as the Ukrainian women are, you never hear them talking about it. You understand? What have you done for me? You understand what I'm saying? You just to destroy people. You understand? They control the narrative. You understand? Where was that? Here we go. In a lengthy post on Medium published in the summer of 2016, this lab detailed USDA read that article. When I assumed the office of secretary nearly 8 years ago, USDA had a reputation marred by decades of systematic discrimination, which goes on today. You understand? This is the reason why we down to only about 900,000 acres, from 13 million acres down to 900,000 acres. That's a big drop. You understand? And it's falling more than that. Because these numbers are at 2021. These numbers are from 2021. You understand? We are destroyed people for a lack of knowledge. I want to get back to this right here. This is a Justice for Black Farmers Act of 2021. Listen to this. The bill directs the Department of Agriculture to provide a variety of assistance to address historical discrimination and disparities in the agricultural sector, right? Now listen, there is no other nation of people who gets discriminated against in the agricultural department or sector except for the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives.
Historically.
You understand? Listen, the Asians, think about it, right? The Asians are coming from China. They're coming from North and South Korea, coming over here and automatically falling into farmland. Where they are automatically placed into a cycle where they automatically, as soon as they get the land, their item, whatever they growing is already set for the market. They don't have to worry about, well, who am I going to sell my goods to? Right. They automatically, once they get this land, everything is set for them to automatically, their wares are already sold.
Can I say one thing? Just one last, I swear this is the last thing.
Go ahead.
I hate,
no, go ahead.
All right, this is the last thing.
I know you got something good, go ahead.
This the thing.
Right.
When the Koreans and the Japanese and the Chinese come here, they don't have to deal with laws like zoning.
Right.
They don't have to deal with banks that loan a certain amount to a certain people.
Right.
They don't have to deal with these type of things. So if you're dealing with zoning, you can't have a certain kind of business in this particular neighborhood or in this particular zone, how they map it out.
Right.
This is how they keep us from having businesses, prosperous businesses.
Right.
We can buy a property, right,
Right.
in a certain neighborhood or a certain zone,
Right.
and then after we buy the property and we're thinking about creating a business on that property, maybe grazing some cows, maybe raising some birds or something like that. Oh, zoning, you can't have that. You can only have that in zone 4 because you have to have sewage, you have to have laboratory, you have to have exit signs for such and such. They make laws to keep us out of being productive.
Right.
And knowing how to get things from the field to the shelf.
Right.
That's very important. You cannot have a society. God damn it, you cannot even have a village if you do not have these infrastructure commodities, that's food, water, and energy.
Yeah.
If you do not know how to get your food from the field to the shelf, you cannot have a society.
Yeah.
This is why they took all of those black farms. I'm so happy you brought this out. If you do not have aqueducts and a way to bring water to those animals and to the people, you cannot have a goddamn village. You can't have a street, bro.
Right.
You can't do it. This is why they keep us out of these industries. These are industries that are the most, how can I say it, my thumb? The most crucial to a growing or infant infrastructure. You cannot have any kind of society without food, water, and energy. And we don't know how to bring that from the field and implement it to the shelf because of our slavery, oppression, and exploitation. That's what they did, and that's why they took all of those homesteads from black farmers, and exactly what you're talking about, and that's why it's so important.
Right.
I appreciate you.
Hey, listen. This goes again, just like you said, right? Getting it from here to here, right, is the most difficult thing for our people. Just like you said, the agents come in and it's already set for them.
Right.
All they got to do is step in and get the keys, right? Again, doctrine of exclusion. Even though they got a commodity that allows them to build and help a nation, the way that it's set up and structured for you to have to be able to buy grain at a reasonable price, right? They set your price for your grain higher.
John.
Right? Now, the aqueducts that you use to get rid of the product, your finished product, they make it harder for you to use on the market. Then the person that you do sell it to, they lowball you after that. Mm-hmm. To the point where by the time you finish paying your loans, you got nothing to support your family off of. So, just like I said, the doctrine of exclusion says that no slave or descendant of a slave can enjoy the fruits of white society. We have a fruit, but we can't enjoy it.
Tell them.
You understand?
Tell them, Mark.
We have a fruit, but we can't enjoy it.
Please tell them.
That's like the whole time, right? You go to the grocery store, you come home with all of these groceries, then the oppressor comes in and takes all of those groceries and leaves you a potato. You understand? After you, all of this blood, sweat, and tears, you spent all of your money on this, they come in and scoop everything up and leave you with the scraps. You understand? So you have a fruit, but you can't enjoy it. So whatever you got, they make sure that you can't build off of it. You just either going to survive for you and your family, or you won't get rid of it because you can't afford it. You understand? And this is what they do. They, like I said, they have laws, and then when you explain this to a lot of our brothers and sisters, well, we got civil rights now, so civil rights erased all of that out, so we got the same rights as everybody else. How? We just talked about that earlier, right? We just talked about it. If you a citizen, you don't need civil rights. When is the last time you seen a white person in court fighting for civil rights? Think about it. When was the last time when have you ever heard of it?
Any citizen of any nation.
Any citizen of any nation. Just like you said, any citizen of any nation. We just said that earlier, right? If you are a citizen, you do not need civil rights. Only a person who is not a citizen needs civil rights.
God.
I mean, think about it, right? And listen,
Come, give him a hand.
all
Come,
the
you right. You
all
right.
the reports that I wrote in school on civil rights, it
Come.
never occurred to me. It never occurred to me that
Come.
if we were real, and think about it, right? I was talking a couple of months ago when I first got into elementary school. They teach you, you know, pledge of allegiance. You pledging your allegiance to a country that you don't even sir. You pledging your allegiance to a country that you don't even have citizenship in.
Come.
You dedicating your whole life. So now in elementary and kindergarten, they teach you the pledge of allegiance. In elementary school, they're teaching you the Star Spangled Banner. So by the time you get into high school, God bless us. I mean, I'm singing it with everything.
Vigor.
Vigor. Exactly. I'm singing it with everything I got because I am American.
Right.
You understand? And then they tainted your mind. This is what they did to us in the 90s. They tainted our mind with the dream team.
Oh.
So you were really proud to be an American.
Yeah, okay.
USA. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Listen, I was young. You understand what I'm
You were
saying?
born.
Where was you at 92? Where you at
Shut your
92?
ass up.
I was in middle school. I mean, I was in elementary school.
How old are
92?
you?
Oh, good.
40.
Okay, yeah, he right. He was there.
Baby.
He just got in.
Similac.
He just got in.
Smelling Similac over here.
He was sitting on the porch eating popsicles.
All right, I let him in. Go ahead. Go. No sweat. I let him in.
He was sitting on the porch eating popsicles, you know what I mean? But I remember, right? Because I mean, listen, it was it. I was working at Sweetheart Cup Company. It was all about America. You understand what I'm saying?
Come.
You really never think that these people speak sweetly with their lips, but in their mind they imagine how to overthrow you into a pit. You understand what I'm saying? We never really look at the destruction and how destroyed we really are. You understand? Because everything they do, and just like we said earlier, everything they do is systematic. You understand? They groom us from babies, teaching you to pledge to a country that you have no citizenship.
Right.
To the point by the time you leave in high school, it's all about God bless America. We are America, USA. You understand? And I never thought about that. And I'm thinking about, I was with some of the hardest brothers on the corner in the 90s, and we are you understand what I'm saying? It's molded. It's molded.
Right.
And this is why it's important for us to get out here on these streets and speak what we speak and bring our people back to the law, statutes, and commandments to give them an understanding that this country, this is not our rest. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
This is not, we should not be getting comfortable in this.
Right.
You understand? Not to mention, World War III is right on the cusp. We right on the doorstep. This is the beginning of the end. We actually, January 6th, that was the beginning of the end. You understand what I'm saying? We as children and coming up, we always talk about, well, we in the final days, we in the last days, we in the last days. Well, January 6th was the beginning of the end. That was the precursor to the beginning of the fall of America. Sedition begins to crumble a nation when people begin to go against the government. Every nation that has fallen, the people of the nation begin to go against the government. That's the beginning of the fall of any society. And January the 6th was the beginning of the fall of America. We being destroyed. Listen, even though America's fallen, we still being destroyed. But what we have to do is we have to maintain our people. We have to have an understanding that although America is falling, think about this, right? In the turn of the century, the 1900s, America was falling, America was crumbling, America was in the Great Depression, right? America was in the Great Depression, but we were thriving. How was we thriving? Because we had to depend on our own people. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives, we did not feel the Great Depression when the Great Depression hit.
Right.
We were making millionaires. Why was that? Because we depended on our own. America came out of the Great Depression because they realized that we were the linchpin to building a nation. So even though they had a perpetual hatred for our people, they realized and understood that although we hate these people, we need these people. So that's when they began to destroy Black Wall Street, Seneca Village, Rosewood, the massacre of North Carolina, all of the massacres they had in North and South Carolina, all of the massacres they had all over the nation. You understand what I'm saying? Because they understood that if these people had their own cities and towns, we gonna fall. And they gonna flourish. 1955, the Alabama bus boycott. The best thing Martin Luther King could have ever done. And that was the best thing he did in his whole career. The Alabama bus boycott. Not only in Alabama, but different cities across the country were boycotting those buses. Think about it, right? Because if one city boycotts buses and the bus system falls apart, that's not going to make the nation change the law. See, we got to also think about that too, right? Alabama wasn't the only city that boycotted their buses. There was a lot of bus systems all around the country. The whole country was losing money. You understand? The system in the whole country began to fall apart. Come, sir. The system in the whole country began to fall apart. And that's the reason why they said, oh, we gotta let these Negroes on buses. Because not only did the buses get boycotted, but shit, sloppy. I didn't say that. But they began to stop buying from the oppressor too. So a lot of industries began to suffer. But the bus boycott was the foundation. And then they started to crumble. Because if the bus boycott would have only been in one city, America could have cared less. You understand? Because America could have sustained that one city from everything else they was getting around the country. You understand? But it was happening all around the country. People were like, well, if they doing it in Alabama, we're going to do it in North Carolina. As a matter of fact, Claude Anderson said it in one of his books, that his family owned a bus company in North Carolina. And because they boycotted the bus systems in Alabama, they did the same thing in North Carolina. But guess what the black people also did? They also boycotted and stopped riding the black buses too, because once they began to let them ride on the white buses, they stopped riding the black buses in North Carolina. And then they started riding the white buses in North Carolina. And that's how Claude Anderson's family lost their bus company. You understand? Yeah. So what Martin Luther King did was he helped the oppressors' businesses and he destroyed our businesses. You understand what I'm saying? Come, sir. He destroyed our businesses. You understand? So, where we at? Let's skip that. Let's get away from that. All right, black-owned farms are holding on by a thread. African-American farmers are disappearing. The legacy of structural inequality has steadily depleted their ranks for nearly a century. And listen, right here, it says in 1920, Black owned about 20 million acres. That's in 1920, right? That's just before they destroyed Black Wall Street in 1921. Understand? Black farmlands is down to 925,000 acres from 20 million, right? In 1920, they owned 14%. 14% of the farms in the United States. 14%, that was 20 million. Now, it was millions and millions and millions of acres, but they owned 14%, which was a nice percentage for the so-called blacks. You understand? And we gotta understand that we are who we need to look for. You understand? We gotta know that we are who we need. We are all we need. You understand what I'm saying? Like I said, in the 1920s, we thrived. We thrived when they segregated. You understand? Segregation was the best thing that happened, but separation is better. You know, separation, you determine where you go. Segregation, they put you in a place. You understand? Although segregation worked out for us, separation is better. We gonna choose, we gonna take this, y'all take that, and we'll be good. You understand? And with that, we're the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. We've been bringing this truth since 1969, and what is that truth? That truth is that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives are the descendants of the greatest people to ever walk the face of this earth, and the Bible identifies as the 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
Listen, we are the true Jews of the Bible. You understand? With that, I'm going to pass the class over to Priest Officer Ron Palak.
Goddamn right, that's what's up. Excellent class. Amazing, excellent class, man. Black people used to feed America.
Right.
With small homesteads and small farms, we fed America, man. And
Okay.
nobody seems to remember that crucial. God damn, that is great. Nobody remembers the contribution that we made to America.
Right.
The only thing that people want to speak about black people is criminality. The criminality that was created
Right.
by our enemies, by white supremacy. But never are black people ever going to get the credit for pushing America to heights that no other society has ever gone to before. That'll never happen.
Right.
Black people were creating and maintaining the most sustainable food industries in America. You know, you can't just have a meat market where all the cows and all the chickens and all the animals come in and you do nothing but take from the land and burn the waste and get rid of the waste. But black people were actually creating soil
Right.
and raising animals like they were supposed to be raised, and those animals just had one bad day when they were slaughtered, man. And we've learned from the pandemic that these vast and big meat markets where everybody is, you have thousands of people slaughtering and cutting up animals, and these vast big meat markets, these are not sustainable.
Right.
Because whenever you have a pandemic, people can't be together. So once you have one of these meat markets shut down, then a vast number of people aren't able to be sustained because that food industry stops
Right.
in its tracks. But when you have multiple small local farms ran by black people, if one shut down, it doesn't matter. You can go to the next local farm that's sustainable and that's healing the land and producing in the land and moving forward, producing soil. And these big meat markets, they're losing soil, losing nutrients from the land.
Right.
So, you know, let me get off of that. We're gonna end out this class, you know what I'm saying? Security announcements, let's get into that. We are the ISUPK out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Under commanding General Yohana, new rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Ties, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18:21 and Malachi 3:8 and 10, means 10th in the Hebrew, and is pronounced Ma'asherah. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the Treasury Department or teach a priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like to give, upcoming holy congregation. Ma'akim and Aquafium. To check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirts, pants, headband, and scarf. Men of Israel, I imagine Shabbat, I imagine Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shabarakatah,
Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shabarakatah.
Yazimatah, class dismissed.
Something to follow, had loyalty, every man tried to borrow, felt pain, and a lot of sorrow got betrayed, so